Hey there, welcome back. I think every entrepreneur nowadays struggles with this. And it's making decisions without polling the entire internet first. Like, can we just get rid of polling the internet? Because if you've ever found yourself asking for opinions in 3 different Facebook groups, right? DMing 5 friends, scrolling through Instagram, posting a poll on your stories to see what everyone else is doing before you make a move, this one's for you. Because here's the truth. The more voices that you let in, the further you get from your own. Let's talk about it.
Ever wonder what it really takes to build a business and a life that feels like yours? Welcome to That Big CEO Energy. I'm Callie, entrepreneur, operations whiz, and your go-to for the real, raw, and unfiltered side of business and life. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy and success. It's about figuring out who you are in the messy middle, trying new things, just because you can, and creating a life that actually fits you. From solo deep dives to candid convos with powerhouse business owners, we're talking all about the highs and the lows and the "why did no one warn me about this?" moments that come while chasing big dreams. So let's get uncomfortable, embrace the chaos, and make it happen.
Let's be honest about what's happening. You have a decision to make. Maybe it's about your offer, maybe it's about your pricing, maybe it's even like the title of something or your messaging or like the next move that you're going to make. And instead of sitting with it, you think to yourself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to post it on my stories and I'm going to make it a poll. And instead of tuning into what you actually think, you ask everyone else. You post it in the Facebook group. You send voice notes to your business friends. You look at what your competitors are doing. Maybe you even go to ChatGPT. You consume content from 12 different people with 12 different opinions. And then what happens? You're more confused than when you started. Because now you have 15 different perspectives, 3 conflicting pieces of advice, and 0 actual clarity on what's actually right for you. Like, I have crowdsourced a decision before. And what happened is I posted it on my stories. And you guys, it was the most simple thing. You want to know what the simple thing was? The simple thing was where we should be going on vacation. Like, what? Why am I asking people about this? And it wasn't like, give me the pros and cons of going there. You know, all the research that I should have been doing on myself. Because here's the thing. And you're probably going, well, you should ask people, you know, if they've gone there before and what they saw and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I had so many choices that I had started recording everything that all the places that I wanted to go. Okay, we're just going to use this very simple example. So you have a list of like 5 places. And this is real life. I had a list of 5 places. And this list of 5 places were places that I really, really wanted to go to. And I felt like no matter what decision I was going to make, it was going to be fine. But here's the thing. I used it for content so that I could crowdsource the decision. And you know what I actually got? All the opinions on why I shouldn't go somewhere. People that don't know me, people that have never met me in real life, people that didn't understand why I wanted to go there in the first place, they didn't actually help me. They actually made me more confused. And they actually made it to where I thought, like, okay, maybe I just won't go anywhere this year. Like, what in the world? Why do we outsource our decision making to the internet? I mean, the clear answer is we don't trust ourselves. We're afraid of making the wrong choice. We're afraid of looking foolish. We're afraid that if we listen to ourselves and it doesn't work out, we'll have no one to blame but ourselves. So we ask for opinions. And where I went wrong with this is I should have made the decision on where to go. And I could have asked for opinions on like where to stay, right? What restaurants to go to, or, attractions to see. Like those things I think are totally appropriate. And when we're thinking about business, it's like we get in this mode of asking for opinions. And sometimes the opinions are not what we need because they don't know our business. They don't know our business model. They don't know us, right? And they don't know what is in the center of all of it. And so, because if someone told us to do it and then it doesn't work out, typically our thinking is, well, at least it wasn't our fault, right? We can pass the blame off to someone else. But here's what's actually happening. Every time you ask for someone else's opinion instead of tuning into your own, you're actually weakening your self-trust muscle. You're teaching yourself that you can't be trusted to make decisions, that you need this external validation to move forward. And the more that you do this, the harder it becomes to hear your inner voice. And I think about this in terms of my marriage as well. I am not good at making decisions about dinner, which, side note, why did nobody warn us that when we get to be adults, that's all the decisions that you're making every day, you guys? That's it. Like, what's for dinner? But I realized that I have a hard time making decisions about something as simple as dinner because I was never given that choice growing up. I didn't know what it looked like growing up to make my own choices. I lived in a household with multiple kids, right? Like it's just like a mom is making dinner and you get what you get and you don't throw a fit, which in some households you need to have that because your mom is not a chef, right? Like this is not the a la carte, cafe day mom here. And I get that. But even as I started to get older, I didn't know what that looked like. And I remember saying to my husband one time that I don't even remember what my favorite food is. Because I didn't have a choice to make that. And so now, like, I love pizza, you guys, all variations of pizza, like pizza. I could have pizza all day long. But I've started, and I hope he agrees, I've started getting better at when my husband says, what would you like for dinner? And I'll sit with it for a minute. And I won't necessarily say like what it is that I want for dinner. I'll say like a few things that sounds good. Like, oh, like tacos sound really good. Or enchiladas sound good. Or, my default's always pizza or pizza. And then it opens up the conversation for him to say like, oh yeah, tacos do sound good. And boom, we have dinner idea and tacos. And I love that he actually is encouraging in the conversation too. And I understand that we're talking about dinner, but it's not about dinner, you guys. We all know by now that the actual thing is not about the actual thing. when he says, hey, I think Tuesday we should have ba ba ba, and Wednesday we should have da da da, and I made 3 choices, now you have to do 2. I'm like, okay, I can do two choices, Um, and so I'm saying all of this to say, I needed to start working on this self-trust muscle, that I am able to hear my own inner voice, to make decisions about adult Callie. What is adult Callie like? And what does adult Callie need? And I had to understand what it actually looks like to make decisions from self-trust. And for me, I'm going to share a few of them, and hopefully, they'll resonate with you too. And if not, it'll spark something else. But for me, it looked like sitting with the decision before asking for input. Like, can I launch these things? And I have had a project sitting for months, and it's finally going to come to fruition this month. Like, I'm just putting my stamp on it. But I had to sit with it for a while. And I had to decide on whether or not it was worth asking for input. And I asked my very lovely client, Sarah, who I just, she is just so wise, and she's just an incredible human. But I had to say to her, and I think I had to say to her because I audibly had to hear myself say it out loud to someone. I had to ask her, what do you think about me creating these things? And she was just super on board, and she loved it, and it was great. And I know that she would have come back and challenged me with questions if I hadn't felt so secure in what I was delivering to her, right? I had to have my own self-trust before I went to her and said, hey, what do you think about this thing? Because when I already went to her and said, what do you think about this thing? I knew exactly what it was going to do, and what it was going to create for myself and my business, and what it meant for my business. And when she could hear and see the full picture, she was able to reflect back to me the input that she had. And when you are not clear on your decisions and how they affect what it is that you're doing, and if you haven't spent the time sitting with the decision that you're going to make next, I firmly believe that those people reflecting back to you questions or comments or their input, they don't have a clear idea on what that looks like, right? And so tuning into what feels right for you and not what works for someone else is super important. I had to get super clear on what felt really, really good for me, not what worked for someone else. Because making a choice and committing to it, even if I wasn't 100% sure, when I could say audibly that this is the choice and I'm committing to it, I felt like I had more self-trust. I felt like I could stand behind what it is that my words were actually sharing with Sarah. And I think a big part of this on how to make decisions from this place of self-trust is learning from what your decisions are, good or bad, instead of outsourcing the responsibility. And so what that meant for me is when I could understand, as I'm building this thing on the back end, I could outsource some things, but I couldn't outsource my decisions. They had to be mine. The creative direction had to be mine. The implementation could be somebody else's. But I had to feel good about those decisions, good or bad. And so the CEO self-trust doesn't mean that you never ask for advice, as I've, kind of given you the example of going to Sarah. It means that you ask from this grounded place, not from panic or confusion. And it means that you use this input that they're giving you as data, not the decision itself. Like her saying to me, yes, I think that this is a wonderful idea and blah, da, 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 da. Like that wasn't confirming to me. I already had decided that I was going to do this thing. I genuinely just wanted to see what her thoughts were. But I had already made the decision. And it actually means that, ultimately, you're the one that has to live with the choice. So you're the one that gets to make it. I want to talk about what happens when you constantly outsource your decision making. Because this is the cost of not trusting yourself. The cost of not trusting yourself means that you lose touch with your own instincts. The more that you ask others, the less that you hear yourself. And you actually slow down because you're waiting. You're waiting for some consensus. You're waiting for validation. You're waiting for someone to tell you that it's okay to make a move. And then what happens? You're actually building a business that's based on someone else's strategy, not your own. And then you sit around and you wonder why it doesn't feel aligned. Like you have this direct friction that's happening between you and your business. And then it erodes your own confidence because every time that you defer to someone else, you're sending yourself the message that you can't be trusted. And here's the thing. No one else has all the information you have. No one else knows your values, your mission, your capacity, your clients the way that you do. So when you ask for advice, you're actually getting an opinion that's based on incomplete information. And then you're making decisions based upon that. So how do you actually build this self-trust? And how do you learn to trust yourself again? And I think it all starts with pausing before you ask. The next time that you want to crowdsource a decision, sit with it. What do you think? What does your gut say? And then make small decisions on your own. Practice with low stakes choices. Dinner. Build the muscle. And I'll just share with you that I had to learn in therapy how to build this muscle, how to make decisions. And it started with something as simple as dinner. And it started with something as simple as saying, even to my husband, just this past weekend, I was like, I don't really want to go on a motorcycle ride. I knew, you guys, it was so cold outside. And then you add the wind and all the things. And I was like, I just know that if it doesn't warm up a little bit more, I'm going to be cold all day. I just am. And I don't want to do that. So I said, you know what? If you want to go out on your own, great. But I don't want to do that. I was making a small decision on my own. And I didn't feel bad about it. But what you can also do is track your decision making, right? Here comes up the infamous word journal that I say all the time. Keep a journal. Notice when you trust yourself and when you don't. Notice what happens when you do each, right? But ultimately, stop asking for permission. If you're asking for advice, but you're really asking for permission, stop. Give yourself permission. Build trust with yourself. But commit to your decisions. Once you make a choice, commit to it. See it through. Learn from it. That's how you build trust. Here's what I want you to remember. CEO self-trust is a skill. It's something that you build. And every time you make a decision from your own clarity instead of outsourcing it to the internet, you're building that muscle. So if you've been polling everyone before you make a move, if you've been seeking validation instead of actually trusting yourself, I want to invite you to just stop. To tune in, become attuned to what you have for yourself, and to trust that you know what's right for you better than anyone else. Thanks for being here. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey friend, thanks for hanging out with me today. If something in this episode clicked for you, I want you to shoot me a DM over on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. Let's chat about how you're making the messy middle work for you. If you loved what you heard, would you mind sharing this episode with a friend who needs to hear it too? And drop a quick review if you don't mind. It helps get the word out, and I appreciate it more than you know. Catch you in the next one.